Hey, everybody, welcome to the Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting. Matt Michaels here, along with Sin City Steve and our other two bad boys, DJ Impact and Simon Street, are celebrating Easter with their families. And we hope that all of you are having a wonderful Easter here this Sunday. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening. And today we're going to kind of do it a little different here. Steve and I are just going to kind of run down some stuff that we've been thinking about, including WrestleMania and this past week of continued storylines as well as what happened in AEW. So let's kick it off, Steve. What was your feelings? We'll start right in on the big match, Roman versus Cody. A lot of mixed emotions, I guess. A lot of pissed off people. What were your feelings about how they got there, how the story played out, before we even talk about what happened to Cody after on Monday night?
Right. So basically, I think that you're working in two different directions. And what I mean by that is this. Yes, you've got the draw of finishing the story. That became a mantra heading into Mania of finish the story, finish the story. And in all actuality, the story didn't get finished. But is it the wrong story that we were looking at? So obviously, we had the feel good moment from night one. Anyone who thought, quite frankly, in hindsight, it's easy to say this, anyone who thought that we were going to get two extremely feel-good moments to close out WrestleMania, well, I mean, that could just be naivety, but it doesn't happen.
Sure.
I was in the camp that is under the belief that, yes, you should have put the title on Cody at Mania. The only thing that I can figure is that they really just have a hard on for Roman hitting this 1,000 days. So, I mean, I guess that they're going to do that. The most logical thing to do, I guess, is to keep Cody in a bit of a chase role. But going according to what happened on Raw, like what you had teased there, yeah, I don't know if he's going to be, in that chase role for a match at SummerSlam at Ford Field. Is this something that they kind of push pause on or press pause on, and then we get some sort of a rematch at WrestleMania 40 in Philly, the site of obviously the setting for the Rocky movies? So you build up the Rocky story of Cody finally doing, finishing his story, albeit a year later.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people kind of a couple things on that. One of the things that I think people forget is that this is the end of WrestleMania, right? So it is the main event. This whole two main events,
Mm-hmm.
you headlined night one. You were the headliner before the intermission, essentially, right? The intermission just happens to be 24 hours. Okay. So they left the audience on a good note so they can come back and leave on a sour note. And one of the things that I think that fans just don't realize because of the attention span and because a lot of the fans don't really think back is in 2000, it was a four-way between Mick Foley and Big Show and Hunter, who was champion, and The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And Mick had just retired, so we knew, he was done. He wasn't going to win. Big Show had just had the championship like the November before in that, time frame. So, and that didn't work out very well. So he wasn't going to win. Everyone knew that this was focused on The Rock winning the title. And that building in Anaheim, the fans were on fire because they were about to see The Rock win. And what happened? Vince ended up screwing Rock in, a McMahon in each corner was the angle. And Hunter won. And the most brilliant thing about that was how pissed off the fans were. It was great. The next year at WrestleMania 17, it was Austin versus The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the biggest baby face in the company, the hugest over guy, lost the match to Austin, who again went with Vince McMahon and turned and went against the Rock, and the fans were pissed.
Yep.
There is no reason that they shouldn't be doing that. It's as simple as that. Because that fans hated Hunter.
Yeah.
They hated Hunter. And they hated him for the same reason they hate Roman. You push him down her throat. You push him down her throat. You push him down her throat. But guess what? You still fucking watch. Now, those of you who don't watch, that's your right. That's your right to walk away and just be like, hey, it's not for me. You know, I'm sick of seeing this guy. But if it's just the one guy, like, you're not walking away because of one guy. You're walking away because of multiple different reasons, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. The thing is that Roman is to the point where Hunter was. He is the perfect person to put the belt on for being a heel, to keep it on him. Oh, but we see the same person all the time. We see the same person all the time. Yeah, but at the same time, that person is still drawing the money. Biggest WrestleMania gate fucking ever, essentially. So the question is, you know, okay, well then the Monday night ratings, they were down.
Yep.
Well, sure, they were down. But there's also factors that go into that as well. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that Monday night the NCAA championship game?
Could be, yeah.
I
believe so.
Monday, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone was talking about on Sunday night the women's championship game for You Can't See Me, ironically enough, to show you how much wrestling is in pop culture. So, you know, there are factors into why that rating wasn't as high. Thank you, John, for confirming that. So, you know, that's another thing. It's not just because Cody got screwed, we're not going to watch.
Right.
It's just that it's absurd. And the viralness of this WrestleMania shows the extent of how big this company is. I'm not saying how good the company is. I'm not saying how dominant the company is. I'm saying about how big of a presence they have and what they've been able to achieve by putting out this kind of product. American Bam Bam brings out a point. Let's not forget about how shitty that Raw was. Yeah, it was shitty, but at the same time, you didn't know it was shitty when you were tuning in, right? Now you might have tuned out, which, you know, is totally fine. But I think that, you know, in the scheme of things, it's interesting how a lot of times, you know, Monday Night Football is the big one, right? Oh, well, they're going against Monday Night Football, and they always have bad ratings because of that. Well, you forget there's an NCAA championship, which is just about as big. So, you know, it's just interesting to see all these reactions. Now, let's go to the other part of that, Steve. Do you agree with the finish? Because a lot of people weren't just pissed that he lost, but everything was great until Solo Sikoa fucked this match up, and that was a shitty finish.
Well, I think more than anything, it's that, you know, it's the same shit, different day kind of a feel. I mean, how many times is a Roman Reigns championship match going to come down to interference that costs his opponent the match? Like that's where I see there being a serious issue. Now, obviously, yes, it's heel wrestling 101. So I see both sides, but fans were clamoring for Cody to win that night. And, you know, there were definitely people that spoke out against putting the title on Cody. And you mentioned one person right there. I know that American Bam Bam had actually made some comments in our chats saying how Roman is definitely going to win and all this other kind of stuff. So, I mean, obviously, that's the beauty of pro wrestling, is we can all see various things, and then we try to fantasy book things. When it works out, it's awesome, and we're on top of the world. But when it doesn't work out, we get all pissed off, and we post negative online. And I mean, that's just the cycle of things. That's the way that's what happens now.
That's a very interesting observation as well. What is really remarkable is that if you think about what goes into the buildup, right, and this whole oh no, wait a minute, no, hold on. So you all fantasy booked Cody to win, and you're pissed about it. Got it. Now, not to me, American Bam Bam, I'm not pissed about it at all. Steve would have liked to have seen him win, but he's not pissed about it. That's the difference between, our level-headedness in realizing entertainment versus, what should or shouldn't happen, right? And I think that's about what I was going to ask you, Steve, is, we're in an age of course, the internet, the age I like to don associated with the film George Lucas Ruined My Childhood. We're living in this whole thing where if my idea isn't what I see on the screen or on the TV, then it's bullshit and it was done wrong. Yet you don't see the same people out there making the product, right?
Right.
So are we just a bunch, we digress to a bunch of people who know better than the people who are actually professionals at doing this and who are actually getting our money?
Of course. And that's not just with professional wrestling. That's with everything in life. We all have, to some extent, a confirmation bias, to where, if it lines up with what we think, then it's amazing. But if it strays, even in the slightest way, oh, well, that's bullshit. Likewise, there's a level of cognitive dissonance that has taken over that, if you have a particular idea, and you think that a match should go a particular way, and then if it doesn't, and it's one of those things where we can't seem to separate our feelings from the actual real storytelling that's at play. So it's pretty crazy to look at that.
Let me ask you this. Now, getting to the other match that you kind of mentioned there, Sami and Kevin versus the Usos, with knowing that you were going to book a match in which the outcome was going to be against what the fan base wanted, would you have potentially considered putting Roman versus Cody on night 1 and Sami and Kevin versus the Usos on night 2 to have the audience leave happy?
I would have left things exactly as they were, to be honest. I can deal with the shit finish to close out the show, because quite frankly, if you were going to do that, then you're going to have, I don't know if you've seen the statistics, but Cody Rhodes is the #1 merch seller in all of WWE. Right. So you run a serious risk if you put him losing on night 1 at the end of the night. You run a serious risk of people not even tuning in for night 2.
Well, see, now that's an interesting question, because remember, tickets are already sold, so we know we're going to have an audience.
What I'm saying is the viewers. So obviously, people aren't going to go out and cancel their Peacock memberships. But I'm just saying, in terms of total eyes on the product, you're going to have people that would not tune in and watch night 2. It wouldn't have any financial implications for WWE whatsoever.
I would argue, because of the fact that the way Peacock is set up, that you are not going to lose a huge percentage of that audience. At most, you're going to lose 5% of those eyes. It's WrestleMania. I think it's secure. I also think that the fans also have this obsession with wanting to leave seeing the thing they want. And what was the one thing that fans were pissed about? Oh, Sammy didn't win in Montreal.
Yep.
So if you put it on night 2, you still have a win-win because people want to see Sammy win. And they're curious enough to seek that out. So I think what happened is, when you get too invested in thinking that Cody is going to be the champion, that it just got to the point where everyone thought that was going to happen. Now, final point on this. We saw the fans get what they want in Kofi Kingston. How did that work out?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing, man, is you have to have a good follow-up. You can't just give them the feel-good moment. You have to give the solid follow-up. And it was one of those things that seemingly just, Kofi Mania was a landmark win. And when I say that, it was a landmark win for absolutely everybody involved. You had, a good chunk of your fan base be able to have that representation at the highest level of the company. Also, you had an underdog story with that one, with that particular rise, and it was a meteoric rise. If you'll remember, it was very similar to the S movement with Daniel Bryan. So it was. Yeah, that was a very, very well done rise, but that fall, 8 seconds on SmackDown to Brock Lesnar.
Right.
And so, ironically enough, after Cody loses, then, he gets laid out by Brock Lesnar.
Right. Which clearly shows that Vince is back.
Right, of course.
So, we got to see the high moment of Sammy and Kevin winning. And we got to see a little bit of the story again continue with Sammy wrestling against Jay and getting his ass kicked. With what we thought might be a Jey Uso turn on Solo. So there is more story being told, and I think that's the other thing that. Hunter said it at the press conference, which I also saw people were pissed about that. Oh, you had to cover by saying the story goes on that you were so embarrassed by what happened. So, there was a lot of things like that going on, but we saw the high in that match. But John was just talking about the fact of the Royal Rumble winner should get the main event in WrestleMania, right? And we saw he get that. That's fair. That would be why he got night 2. But your Rumble Royal winner for the women was Rhea Ripley, and she did not get the main event on night 1. And yet, arguably, her and Charlotte probably had the best match of night 1.
Tell you what, man, those two ladies went out and they had a giant chip on their shoulder. Like you could tell it was Charlotte because as everybody knows, Charlotte doesn't exactly have a great poker face. So you can definitely tell exactly what kind of emotions she's got running through her at that very time. But they came out with colossal chips on their shoulders and they tore it the fuck down.
Yeah. Yeah, it was amazing, and I think that I really think that if you're going to keep doing 2 nights, the women's Rumble Royal winner should be the main event of night 1. Regardless, build your fucking storyline to that. Then, if that is going to be the case, because that's going to be the case, right?
Yep.
And then the men's for night 2. Simple.
I think that's the perfect way to go. And obviously the extraordinary circumstances of the Usos and Sammy and KO match, it's supplanted the women's Royal Rumble match. Right. I don't think that that's going to be an every year kind of a thing. I think that's more of an exception to the rule.
Well, we would hope so, but we don't know, right? Again, because there are no actual rules, right?
Right.
We're not bound by anything by any means. So that's the whole thing about this. Again, it's wrestling. It's all fucking stories, and you're going to choose the best stories to be your headliners.
Of course.
But we can also look at night 2 and go, that Gunther match.
Oh God.
Jesus Christ, one of the best matches in the fucking, that they've ever done.
Dude, that was my favorite match of all of Mania. Those three guys went out and beat the fucking dog shit out of each other, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was amazing. We saw strong style in the WWE.
Yes.
Which is great. The sad thing is the idea that it has to just be big men, right?
Right.
So, they still have to allow some of the smaller guys to continue to do it like we do see in NXT or NXT UK. That would be wonderful.
Oh yeah.
Another match that you saw a lot of violence, and fuck Edge for winning it, but Jesus Christ, Finn getting that gash in his
oh my God.
Head. Jesus Christ, what a fucking brutal match that was.
Bro, and the thing is, that ladder spot, that really, I don't want to say that I was let down with that match, but it was, that stoppage in the match really did take the wind out of the sails in that match. But I'll tell you what, man, for the medical team to be able to give Finn to treat him right there and to put some numbing agent onto him, which obviously it's not going to do everything right then and there, but then throwing 14 staples into his head right there, and then he finishes the match. Not that he needed to earn any respect from me, but Finn Balor definitely earned a lot of respect from a lot of people that maybe didn't quite think highly of him, or saw him as being somebody that, oh well, he held the Universal title, but he got injured, so he really doesn't matter. That fucking gash, man. Good Lord, that image on social media still haunts me.
Yeah, it was brutal, and amazing that they fucking finished that match.
I couldn't believe that when I heard everything that went down afterwards. I was in disbelief.
Yeah, it's crazy. So those. Yeah, and John is right. The match was supposed to go longer before the head split happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, they probably had some crazy shit planned for that as well. That covers kind of most of WrestleMania. Again, Bianca Belair. I'm so glad that they're retaining her as kind of this hero for girls. Just a great thing to see. A respectable champion who girls can look up to. And kudos for that little girl who lost her mom that morning.
Oh yes.
Went out there and they were, able to give her that featured spot and give her that moment. And, no one knew that, at least no one in the public knew that had happened. And that was just
right.
To see. And again, overall, WrestleMania up and down was great. Logan Paul, again, just exceeds expectations.
Dude, he's better in the ring than almost half the roster. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Dude is a natural for the business and a mega star.
Yeah, and Kevin Sullivan called it out on Twitter that night, and he said that if he was full-time, he'd be better than almost everyone on the roster. So it's true, but that goes with the string of all celebrities that appeared on WrestleMania. you can look at, they didn't have one bad celebrity appearance. And kudos for Snoop Dogg for stepping up and, and just covering it up. And Miz, of course, for, being able to kind of ring general it and just kind of go with it. And taking a couple punches from Snoop Dogg on the fly.
Right.
Again, that shows the Bad Bunny thing. What a fucking great setup with Bad Bunny now for what we're going to see in Puerto Rico.
Definitely.
Who would have thought that the next night we would see Bad Bunny like getting fucking slammed through a fucking table?
Jesus.
That guy is a pop star. He's like the biggest fucking pop stars in the world.
Bro.
I'm sure his fucking insurance company is going, you motherfucker.
Yeah. No shit.
And kudos to Ray and Dominic for pulling off one hell of a fucking match and an end to that story, or at least, the end to their part of the story not being the bigger shell of it. But that was a great match too, that you see that Dominic has things in place to be a superstar now. And that's wonderful to see. Plus, every day now he looks more and more like Eddie Guerrero.
Of course.
So fucking smart of them.
It's intelligent. It's a very intelligent character building. And how about that entrance? Both of those entrances in that match. Those were both dope entrances.
Yeah. And John was at SmackDown, and he did say Dominic got the loudest heat out of everybody, and it's crazy how much just fans are hating them right now. And it's amazing that we see the LWO revived.
Right,
merchandising. That's amazing.
Most definitely.
And then finally, Austin Theory is getting his shine now. With that match, Cena still looks strong, and he did exactly what a heel needs to do to win that match. It was perfect setup, and hopefully with Vince back, though, Vince might elevate him right to the heavyweight championship.
I was going to say, wait and see. Austin Theory is actually the one that defeats Roman Reigns now that Vince is, back calling the shots with ultimate veto power.
Yeah. And John made another good point at SmackDown. One of the loudest pops was for LA Knight, who wasn't even in the ring. The SmackDown here in Vegas, same thing. LA Knight was getting huge, just audience support. They're going to have to start featuring him. I got a feeling that we're going to, potentially start seeing him.
Give him Money in the Bank and call it a day.
Yeah. He'd be the perfect person to hold it. NXT, they had Stand and Deliver. Indy Hartwell got the women's championship. It seems like it was a long time coming for her. We see a reunion with Dexter Lumis, which was kind of sweet to see. But we got a spectacular North American title match where you had a retaining of the title, but 5 guys who just put on one hell of a show. That was a great match. And it looks like we're going to see more of that, with Wesley in the future here with these kind of open challenge type things and guys approaching him. But the big thing was Carmelo finally getting the belt and how good the match was. And then to have Braun come out on NXT on Tuesday and have this wonderful exchange with him. And then when it looks like he's going to leave the ring, he gets called back by Carmelo. He puts out his hand to shake. And then we see Braun turn heel. So we get to see a bad guy Braun. Also, as John said, Gargano, perfect swan song for NXT. Just no rules, no nothing, did what he always does. And kudos for Waller for hanging with him. He looked like things as well.
Most definitely.
Any thoughts on NXT there, Steve?
So I think the show overall really delivered. You hit on a lot of the high points. The North American title match was one of the better multi-man matches that they've done in recent memory. Thank God we finally get a Braun Breaker heel turn. Finally, and it's going to be interesting to see how Braun does in this new role, because clearly they have to test him as a babyface. They have to test him with the title. They have to test him without the title, and they have to test him as a heel so that he knows how to respond to those different things on the main roster. Because keep in mind, he is a product of WWE PC. So they are grooming him to be something very, very big on the main roster.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we're seeing the same thing with Carmelo Hayes as well.
Yes. Carmelo Hayes has the potential to be a megastar once he gets to the main roster. The guy can talk. The guy can wrestle. He's got amazing charisma. And quite frankly, I see him as a bit of a Shawn Michaels type of a character very early on in his career.
I see him, honestly, as a Rock.
I like it.
The only difference is the size is just a little smaller. But just the charisma he has, I think it's even more than Shawn had at this point in his career. I think he really has that natural Dwayne Johnson quality. What Dwayne has as a person that makes him that character. I think Carmelo has as a person as well, because you cannot teach that shit. And
no,
he is just fantastic when he just, he can just walk out there and your eyes gravitate. So it's going to be wonderful to see where they go with him in the having the championship now. All right, Steve, let's talk a little AEW and why should I have watched this week?
Well, after WWE's Raw After Mania, where, let's be real, they only had one major real return or surprise, being Matt Riddle's return. Tony Khan fires right out, very first segment, doesn't even wait for the match to begin. Ricky Starks versus Juice Robinson, and boom, we get the debut of Jay White coming in, laying out Ricky Starks. I think that it's a very solid way to bring him in, and you've got the built-in partnership right there with Juice Robinson, both members of the Bullet Club. So very good stuff there.
Here's the question for you. All right, that's great. That's wonderful. For you, that's $1 million. For those of us who don't watch New Japan, are we ever going to get told, and not just told by commentary, but given a story of why I should give a fuck that these two guys are together?
So genuinely, I believe so. And I think that they realize, or they should realize at this point, and when I say they, obviously I'm speaking of AEW, they need to have the understanding that things need to be fleshed out more. There are some very, very real criticisms of developing characters that, for all intents and purposes, outside of a few individuals, they haven't done a great job with building characters and progressing storylines. AEW provides some of the greatest matches that you'll see, but it's the emotional attachment to those characters. It's that storyline. It's the overall arc and projection of these characters that we can truly get behind, that's going to keep the fans coming back for more year after year. So I think that with the merger of WWE and UFC, I think that had to have set off some alarm bells. And I genuinely think that we're going to start to see AEW going back on the offensive. Things like the Jay White signing, and let's call it what it is too. Jay White comes into, hypothetically, if he would have ended up signing with WWE, you basically said it without saying it. The WWE fan, if you would set him up for a huge entrance and a huge marquee appearance on the Raw after Mania, your average WWE fan isn't going to know who he is. Right. They're not going to react. So right. I genuinely think that this was always the intended landing spot. Now, obviously, some comments have come out where Jay White said that he was about ready to sign with WWE and ended up turning them down in favor of AEW. But whatever it is, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they follow it.
And let's make it clear too. That doesn't mean that the WWE would have even debuted him.
Right.
At that point, he might have gone to NXT or something like that. So we don't know what that necessarily means when you were about to sign with. We do know that this is something that they've dropped the ball on constantly. So what will happen now with this new signed talent? Because there's going to be other people, not only who were just signed, but who are going to be signed in the next couple of weeks. So
definitely
we got to keep our eyes on that. All right, more on AEW, Steve.
Yeah. So another thing that you would have appreciated, Michaels, is they had a full blown MJF day. They had.
I did watch, by the way, and I did not appreciate it.
Really? Okay. You didn't like MJF singing "Pennies from Heaven" on the stage?
I would have liked it if he would have moved down to the ring sooner, because he was better in the ring than he was on the stage. The stage thing went too fucking long.
Yeah.
But you know what killed it for me was everything after in the fucking ring, where it was just like, come on.
Yes.
That's the difference between what AEW does and what WWE does. Is someone is producing it and is able to go, you got to keep it this long.
Yeah.
That's the only problem I had with it, was I just got fucking bored.
Yeah. And honestly, that segment definitely was, it ate up a lot of time. But of course you had the Jungle Boy attack there at the end. And of course you had Sammy Guevara come out for his match with Commander and, pick up the title. There's the photo op of, the security team separating Jungle Boy and MJF. Titles laying on the ground. Sammy picks it up. I mean, it's a good visual. We can all see that they're angling for the 4 pillars in a 4-way at Double or Nothing, a match that MJF should win.
Steve,
what's up?
Just as many fucking security guards had to hold back Jungle Boy.
Hey man, they couldn't risk anything, You don't know what kind of craziness that Jungle Boy is going to do. I mean, he might find a piece of the set and repel off of it, or do any number of things because he's from the jungle. Get it? He's crazy.
The problem I still have about MJF and Long Island is, why the fuck is he a face? It's nonsense. You know what? If you're a fucking heel, I don't care. It's your hometown. Be a fucking heel to that crowd. You're a jerk. That's your job. And this guy likes to be an asshole, on the street if he runs into someone who comes up to him. What the fuck? Just be a fucking heel.
Now, the thing that I will say is, obviously it's a direct takeoff of the Bret Hart in Canada kind of a setup that WWE had back in the day. But yeah, I get it, but quite frankly, and call it what it is, if nothing else, this gives him some time to play as a babyface for the eventual time when he does turn babyface. And so I get it
already. He's that good and that popular that if you're going to keep him a heel at least. You know what I'm saying? That's all. I'm just saying, for again, we're trying to think of the reasons why the audience just does not grow. And I think one of the reasons is one week you're tuning in, and think about it. You're a 10-year-old kid. You're tuning in, you're watching this guy, you hate this guy. Now all of a sudden you like this guy because you saw him do this thing. And then all of a sudden now you got to hate him again next week. It's confusing. Not to us, we're grown adults, but to an audience that you can retain for 5 years as they grow from 10 to 15, that's a big thing.
Yeah, and continuity is something that I preach on this show. So, that definitely plays into it, and I definitely think that the MJF and Long Island thing is one of those rare exceptions to that. I don't have a problem with it personally, but it is what it is.
But they do the same thing. They did the same thing with Punk in Chicago. That's what I'm saying. Tony Khan has this perception of, if I can get like you said, he plays to his fan base.
Yeah.
So what good is that doing you when you're ignoring the fan base outside of those people who already adore your product? These guys are not leaving you. Now you can do wink, wink, knock, little nudge, nudge stuff to make those little things, inside jokes, maybe that particular audience will get, Long Island will get. But to have this, I guess here's the thing. If Roddy Piper would have done a Piper tribute day, it would have been the most self-absorbed, not slapping hands going down the rail.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the difference between a true heel like Roddy Piper when he was at his peak. It was a big fuck you to everyone. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want to do because I'm the star of this fucking show.
Right.
And that's the difference here. MJF has that 100%, but there's no need to then placate and it's just like, be a dick to those people. Just fucking make them hate you, and they're still going to love you. So, but that again, we could talk about that all night, and that's just philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously we would definitely be remiss if we didn't talk about the title change at the end of the night with FTR capturing the AEW World Tag Team titles from the Guns. An outcome that definitely should have happened. And I do have to say, the Guns coming out to Many Men by 50 Cent was a pretty cool touch, especially with them being on Long Island. Not really. I have to say, the Guns, despite how young they are, they do make great heels, and that was one of those things where it was like it was just a really cool touch that I didn't see coming at all, and hopefully it was just a one-night thing. But yeah, definitely having FTR win those titles, and let's call it what it is. Some people can say that it was an angle all along. Some people can say that their contracts were coming up and they decided to stick with AEW over going back to WWE. Whatever it is, we may never really know. But it is amazing for AEW to still have FTR on the roster and in the tag team ranks, and especially as the champions. This was definitely the needed outcome, and you even had the areas in the match where Paul Turner could have DQ'd the Guns and the announcers even stated that if that happens, then FTR's AEW careers are over, yada yada. So I mean, it all played in, but yeah, this was definitely something that needed to happen.
For once again, for everything that happens on Dynamite, either I like it or don't like it. Then you have Friday night, and Friday night just validates how much I just do not like their programming. Because the 2 hours was fucking worthless this weekend.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And I honestly, I don't think that we've seen a Battle of the Belts that's really been consequential in months. I think maybe the first one or two had some matches on there that were standout matches, but now it almost feels forced and like as if they have to shoehorn in championship matches in order to satisfy that end of the deal. Whenever you do anything, just for the sake of doing it, whether it's a stipulation or anything, if you're just doing it for the sake of doing it just because, and it really doesn't belong, it's bullshit and it needs to change.
So I'll go to the purest of AEW, things. Record is supposed to matter, and I don't understand how Billy Starks, who is an unsigned talent,
exactly,
gets a fucking championship match on that show. Who cares? If she was on Rampage getting the shot, all right, fine. But unless you're going to have Billy Stark upset her and she's signed to your company now and is now that champion, it's pointless. And it just wastes your time on your show. It's a great opportunity for her, but having the match on Rampage would have been the same opportunity, and it would have been an hour earlier, and possibly more people would have
more eyes.
So, yeah, it's just a very interesting, thing with that particular special that had potential, but again, just kind of gets downgraded again.
Yeah, and obviously, we also saw the announcement from TK that All In will be happening on August the 26th, I believe it was 26th or 27th, from London Wembley Stadium. Excuse me. So yeah, that's going to be very interesting because keep in mind you're going to have that, and then I saw somewhere that Anthony Bowens on Twitter had mentioned that they were going to do All Out the very next month in Chicago again. And it's like, why? What's the fucking point? I don't get that. If you're gonna do this and you're gonna have All In, don't have All Out the very next month. Especially if you're trying to sell 50, 60, 70,000 plus tickets to All In. I don't get it. The only kind of a thing that they could get the only kind of a match that they could book that would possibly fill that would be, as Dax Harwood mentioned on his podcast, FTR and a returning CM Punk versus the Elite. That's the only match that they could do that will generate enough buzz to come close to filling that stadium.
Yeah,
and I mean, even at that point, would it?
Yeah, and here's the thing. The only thing they got going for them is the fact that it's in a place that they don't run.
Without a doubt. And now I'm sure someone in our comments will mention this to me, but I remember reading something to the effect of AEW actually draws more viewers in the UK than WWE does, and that comes down strictly to the networks that they're on. But yeah, AEW does perform extremely well in the UK on TV.
Yeah, but again, what does that translate to? Again,
right?
To people traveling in the UK to go to the stadium. You're going to get a number of fans from, the States going over there as well. So you're going to sell tickets. But are you going to sell 90,000 tickets? I don't know if that's possible.
I just hope that AEW doesn't fall into the same trap that WWE did with Clash at the Castle, where the highest level of seating was around the equivalent of $1,000. And even beyond that, for front row. But it's pretty insane the pricing that WWE was charging for Clash at the Castle. So I just genuinely hope that TK is able to pull this off, because as everyone knows, all eyes will be on them on that date. So just to see how they do withdrawing, how the show looks, everything as has been mentioned right here on our shows. It's very, very. It's going to be a watershed moment for AEW. It's either going to be a colossal failure or a dynamic success. One of the two will happen. And quite frankly, for the future of the wrestling business, I hope that it's going to be a huge win.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a success no matter what. That's the thing. Don't forget, that's the thing. UK, they are good wrestling fans.
Yeah.
So they're going to have a success, but is it Tony Khan's delusional success or is it a realistic success? I think that's what's going to be the question. And quite frankly, during that announcement, I had to stop and go back and count. Tony Khan did not blink for 41 seconds straight. His eyes were bulging so big, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then I'm like, he's not blinking. So I rewinded it. I'm like, 41 fucking seconds without blinking.
Holy shit.
It's like, Jesus Christ, man. If he is not on something, then he is literally like a little psychotic.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Of course, we got months for that in that buildup. All right, really quick, Steve, if you want to give some final thoughts here, as we say goodbye, just to let everyone know, you will not catch us live now. We just recorded an episode that will air on our podcast networks coming up on Tuesday. You can find it on your favorite podcast station. And that is dealing with the WWE and its merger with UFC. So catch that on Tuesday. And Steve, what do you have to say to the folks?
All right. Thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, doing all the stuff that you guys do. We genuinely appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you. Also, a very special shout out to all the brave men and women serving this country, whether you're doing that on lands foreign or domestic. Thank you for doing what you do so that we can do what we love to do. And last but not least, repsports.com, REPP sports.com. Go there for all your pre-workout, weight loss, and general energy needs. Again, that's repsports.com. Hey, use promo code Vegas at checkout and save yourself 15%.
There you go. And a very sad passing this week, Butch Whacker Butch. He was in for WrestleMania weekend. And unfortunately, as I understand it, he had forgotten his medication back in New Zealand. And ultimately, apparently, that's kind of what led to him passing away. Which is kind of unbelievable in the fact that I guess Luke couldn't make it out to WrestleMania weekend because he had some ailments going on. So, it's just a sad thing. I know that a lot of the guys who, worked with those guys over the years, they're just heartbroken. They're just torn up because Butch was a really good guy. And a lot of them worked very close with those guys for, 20, 30 years. So it's, it's sad to see, someone who literally just saw fans and was having such an amazing, weekend to everyone, and was catching up with old friends and stuff. And then he's gone. Which just weirdly enough coincides within the last couple of days of the Ultimate Warrior, having his moment on Raw and then passing away the next day, which is close now to, I think next year will be 10 years. So, it just goes by too fast. Once people are gone, and while we're here, it goes by too fast. So everyone, don't forget that, and just stick close to your loved ones. Let them know you love them and you're thinking about them. And the people that are closest in my heart know that I love them very much, and I will always make sure they know that, because you never know. So, all right, everyone, thank you for tuning in this week. We will be back next week, and we should have DJ Impact back with us, as well as Simon Street. And until then, everyone, please have a great week and happy wrestling.